because of the rates the way they are in California, even with the added cost of batteries on top of the solar panels, your payback in California is still better than what we get on the East Coast. A lot of California homeowners is that they are actually moving away from natural gas altogether. What does that look like from the installer training perspective in terms of like technical skills? Do you all have like a training facility that the installers go to? How does it work selling batteries for savings, or being able to accurately convey to a homeowner what the savings is going to be by utilizing the battery as opposed to just the simple one-for-one net metering? All right, everyone, welcome back to the Solar Surge podcast. We're coming to you day 2 here from SolarCon in Salt Lake City. And this morning I'm joined by Michelle Spina, head of marketing, right, at SolarEdge?
So sales education manager for SolarEdge.
Yep. All right, well, I know I see you all over social media and giving a lot of the presentations and everything. So, how's the conference going for you so far?
Great. I mean, I love this audience because they have a willingness to learn. They're very hungry for knowledge, and we're all kind of a community here, so it's been fun.
Absolutely, it's been really exciting for me to meet a lot of the people that are following Solar Surge. So many times you talk into the camera, you don't really know who's on the other side of the camera lens. So that's cool. So tell me, how did you get connected with Jake Hess and with the organizers here?
Yeah, well, Jake and I go back a couple of years. So he runs Solar Academy. We kind of have a good integration because I'm a training manager as well. So I've used a lot of his content. He's used some of my content for Solar Academy, and we work on podcasts and things together. And just our focus is spreading the word, and spreading the knowledge, kind of like you. So like I said, it's kind of a community network of educators, and that's how I've gotten associated with him.
Cool. Now, speaking of content, we all saw, I think most of us saw the video skit that you did with Jake and the muscle and the optimizer.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was so fun. So we actually rented a couple of Mini Coopers in San Diego and just zipped them around, and we felt like superheroes. We don't usually feel like superheroes in solar. We're kind of the solar nerds, but we felt pretty cool in that video. Yeah.
That's cool. Now, that was fun. And it's nice to have some fun with it, too. Sometimes even my own team tells me, it's like, Joe, you're kind of boring, very professional, talking up on the camera there. So it is nice to kind of have some fun with it sometimes.
Take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah. And you also make a good point. It's our industry. It's like you hear so much about solar's booming and how much growth there is in the solar industry, but it still feels like it is kind of still a small family, a small community of us. Solar professionals that are all in, committed to it.
Totally agree.
It's cool to meet up with everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So tell us, what's going on at SolarEdge? Kind of different market conditions this year than what we've been used to in the industry for a while. So how are things going at SolarEdge? How are you guys adapting to the new reality of things?
Yeah, I think that we need to stay positive. I mean, NEM 3 is just another hill that we have to climb. We always do. We've been in solar for a long time. We've seen utility changes and policy changes, and we just have to adapt. And that's what California has to do, is just adapt. And we can do that. It's still a great market for solar. We still have the highest utility rates there. So, I travel all around the country. There's a lot of other states that are looking into getting rid of net metering as well. And so if we can adapt and show that it works in California, then we can show it works in everywhere else. And SolarEdge has a product that is perfectly suited for NEM 3, essentially a self-consumption battery. So it's our same battery, but it doesn't have that backup interface, which disconnects the home from the grid. So for homeowners that don't have a lot of blackouts, but do want to take advantage of self-consumption and becoming their own power plant, like in NEM 3, you kind of have to do that. We have that solution. It's less expensive. It's kind of the new solar-only solution in California, and we're going to try to adapt that so we can do it to other markets when they roll out with the net metering policies as well.
Great. Well, we'll talk more about that, but it's kind of cool for someone like me to see it. When I got into solar 10 years ago, batteries were like such a small part of the solar community, and we were considered kind of like, fringe guys. Like, what are you doing with all those, batteries in your garage? It's like, I want to be independent is what I'm doing,
Yep.
And it's really cool to kind of see these products coming mainstream, more consumer friendly, safer.
Yeah, I agree.
Safer for use in the home. without having to be a solar engineer to figure out how to make it all work. So that's really neat. And the other thing is, you're right. Because of the rates the way they are in California, even with the added cost of batteries on top of the solar panels, your payback in California is still better than what we get on the East Coast.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's still better than break even with the battery cost, and you get the backup with it.
Right.
If you choose to do it.
Yeah. Definitely. Yes, like I said, California is still a very, very high rate market. So it's a great place to go solar, and they're increasing. So we saw a 32% increase in some of our utilities this year, without any fair warning. So there's always going to be those utility increases, and we want people to be independent. Somebody was talking yesterday, and it was really interesting to hear them say, we always talk to homeowners about independence when going solar. And you don't actually have true independence unless you have a battery solution, because you can utilize your battery to self-consume at night, and that's really when you become independent and become your own power plant. So it is fun to see, and there's a lot of other battery solutions out there, and it's good to see people entering the market too.
Absolutely. Now, with that comes more complexity, and of course training is a big part of that. So and I know that's what you're passionate about. That's what you're doing, is making sure that installers and salespeople have the right information about how to install the battery properly, and then being able to accurately communicate to homeowners what the battery can and can't do, and what some of the limitations are. Because I know that's where a lot of folks get into trouble. On the sales side, they promise the moon. It's like, oh yeah, one battery is going to run your whole house. It's going to run your air conditioner. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yep.
And that's just not the reality. I mean, batteries, like anything else, there's certain specifications and limitations. And, a lot of times just understanding how to read the numbers on the spec sheet and translating that. That's a lot of what I do, is frankly, I just read the spec sheet and translate that into what does that actually mean for a homeowner? What can I run? What can I run? How long can I run it?
Right.
And things like that. So why do you think training is so important now, as we're getting into this NEM 3.0 era?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of salespeople that have avoided batteries for that exact reason. It's just a lack of knowledge, lack of comfort. We all know solar, but we don't know batteries as well, and so they don't want to actively pitch it. Now they've kind of gotten into a point, like you said, where they have to, and so that knowledge is necessary. What we want to do is simplify it. You and I both, we're trying to simplify it for sales reps so that the homeowners get that right expectation. And I think that we're seeing it. I mean, there are people that are successful at selling batteries and have really gotten the hang of it, have really great ways of explaining it and simplifying it for homeowners. But ultimately, it's important because we want that homeowner to have the good experience. We want them to be able to have power during an outage when they need to. It's a little bit more of a critical situation, right? Like if they have an extended outage, they need to be assured what's going to be backed up and what is going to run, because it's really their livelihood and their safety. Look what happened in Texas. It's like in the freeze, they have to have backup and they have to know what's being backed up. So I think it's a bit more critical to have that proper training, proper education with batteries so that the homeowner knows what to expect.
Absolutely. Now, are you in California yourself? Do you live
I
there?
am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, one of the things I've noticed, I've spoken to a lot of California homeowners, is that they are actually moving away from natural gas altogether. I've talked to dozens of California homeowners that, oh yeah, I'm getting rid of my gas water heater, I'm getting rid of my gas furnace, I'm moving to a heat pump. Can you explain a little bit about why that's happening? Because for us, like on the East Coast, especially when you're talking about like emergency backup power, a lot of times we want to have the natural gas for the heating. That way we can conserve the battery for everything else, like the computers and things that need electricity.
Yeah.
Why is it that California is moving away from natural gas, and what does that mean in terms of proper battery sizing?
Right. So, I mean, there's been a lot of electrification of the home. Definitely electric hot water heaters, things like that, are things that we're moving towards. Natural gas has become more expensive in California, so we actually pay a bit more for natural gas than we would be paying for electricity. And so, there's policies around sustainability and things that electrifying the home tends to be the proper route to go. In terms of California, they're always kind of the bellwether for how can we make it more sustainable. And that's one path that they're taking, is electrifying the home to get away from natural gas type scenarios, especially because that is a resource that is becoming more expensive. And so we are seeing that. How that impacts solar, we're seeing larger system sizes for sure. We are seeing more battery solutions with not just one battery, but 2 batteries has been a really comfortable place for homeowners in a situation where you have that electrification. Because sometimes with that electrification, most of the time, also comes energy efficiency. So we're looking for more efficient ways, like tankless water heaters, like ACs that are intelligent, will shut off and things. We have these smart energy devices in our home now that are managing electricity a bit better. And so the 2 battery system has been really popular in California to really nearly back up the whole home for small energy efficient homes. It's great. And then if you have those big ACs, 3 batteries, 4 batteries, has been, in the desert and things, we have quite a few of those. So 3, 4 battery solutions, but then 2 batteries has really been that sweet spot for a lot of homeowners.
Great. And so I think I've heard that too. So with 2 batteries, you can get started with a whole house backup for as little as 2 batteries, but then can go up to how many?
With SolarEdge, you can go up to 9 batteries. It's a little excessive, but we do have some really large solutions when it comes to multiple central AC units. Some homes have that type of thing. They would need 6, 7, 8 batteries. For most homeowners, 2, 3 batteries, if you're backing up your whole house, as long as it's a sustainable, energy efficient house, we're seeing that really good for California.
Great. Now, as you know, there's a lot of installers out there in the audience too. In fact, I've had a chance to meet some of them here at the conference. And what would you say to a solar installer, maybe one who's avoided batteries for many years? Said, look, it's just too complicated, it's too much risk. I've got a good thing going here, just putting panels on.
Yeah.
But now I feel I have to do batteries. What would you tell them? What's the best place to start? What do they need to know now as they're getting into this?
Well, we came out with what we call the SolarEdge Rate Saver solution. A lot for the installer that's not very well versed in battery solutions, because it's actually a very simple installation. The complexity of an install for batteries is setting it up for backup, right? So that's the critical loads panel, that's the backup interface, it's relocating all of those loads. That's the electrical portion that takes the biggest amount of time and the most skill. With the Rate Saver solution, like I mentioned earlier, it's not backup, but it's self-consumption. You're using that battery as just a bucket, a storage bucket to store your energy during the day so you can use it at night. And it's much easier to install because you don't have to set it up for backup. So what we tell installers a lot is start with that. Ease your way into the battery installation. And that's kind of step 1. If you can do that, then add that complexity for backup. Take it in bite-sized pieces. Don't jump into it all at once if you feel like it's too complex for your team. But ultimately, if you're going to continue in California, you will need to know batteries. That's really the message is there is really no way around it. You'll have to know how to install a battery.
So what does that look like from the installer training perspective in terms of like technical skills? Do you all have like a training facility that the installers go to? Or do you do it like a video base? How does it work getting an installer up to competency on installing these systems?
Great question. So we have a whole Edge Academy. So that is an online self-paced training where you can get certified to install our products. In order to purchase our battery, you actually have to be certified to install. We did that on purpose in terms of, like you said, really setting the homeowner up for the best experience and making sure that that installer knows how to properly install. So that's the self-paced program, but we also have live training walls in distribution facilities all around the country where we do live trainings of wiring, hands-on, commissioning, et cetera. And it's worked really well to get a whole group of installers into those distribution facilities with our live training wall to do it hands-on before they get into site. But then step 3 is we do also partner with installers on their first couple of installs. So we have field service engineers all over the country. We want to be on your first and second install so that we can guide your team through it, so that the next one's going to be easier for you. It's always those first 5 that are kind of tough.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, and I'm glad that you guys provide that service because I've seen it so many times. Install crew goes out to install a new battery. Mm-hmm. They went through the training videos, but it's the first time they actually have physically having hands on it. And then the worst thing you can do is sorry, Mr. Homeowner, I've never done this before. Let me call tech support. And then you're going back and forth on the phone trying to figure out, it's not that it's anything wrong with that, because you're right. I mean, the first few times you do a new product, there's going to be some learning curve, right? Sometimes you have to update the software or whatever it is, configure this setting. But, doing that kind of learning in front of a homeowner for the first time in the field is much better if you can do that, in some kind of like a training or simulated environment.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, if you do have to do it in the field, having on-site support, I think, is really important. So that's great. What do installers need to do to coordinate that if they wanted to, set up a SolarEdge field team for one of their first installs?
Yeah, all of our installers have a RSM, a sales manager that's assigned to them. So they will walk them through and schedule when they have their first installation. They'll partner them up with a field service engineer in their market to make sure that they're there. So they have a RSM regional sales manager that they will coordinate with every step of the way, in terms of ordering the product, getting knowledge on the product, and then also setting up that in-person training.
Great. All right, welcome back to the Solar Surge podcast. And this afternoon, I'm sitting down with Connor Morrison, Residential Marketing Manager at SolarEdge. And we're going to talk more about the SolarEdge solution. So Connor, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah,
good to sit down with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. So, it was funny. I guess I first saw you on that video collaboration that you did with Jay Kess and the team here. So for those who don't recognize him, this is the optimizer, delivering the power just in time.
The optimizer. I'm also a terrible driver.
That's funny, though. What was the experience like doing that little video skit?
That was so fun. We went into it with sort of a plan of doing the Italian job, and so we're like, we'll bring Mini Coopers and things like that. But it was, I think the best part was just how it developed, with JCAS and with the group and with Michelle and everybody. Just like you get there and you start having more ideas of what you want to do, and letting it sort of organically evolve into something fun. That was a great time.
That's cool. Well, as always, it's nice to have some fun with this stuff.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. It is very technical stuff that we're dealing with here, but it's cool to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
So, today we're going to talk a lot about, the new SolarEdge battery control software.
Yeah.
And how this works in the new NEM 3.0 world.
Yeah.
This is a question that I'm getting a lot from my sales team is like, Joe, how do we present this battery savings? Like, how does it all work? And I'm still, trying to figure out, part of why I'm here is trying to figure out exactly. So how does it work selling batteries for savings, or being able to accurately convey to a homeowner what the savings is going to be by utilizing the battery, as opposed to just the simple one-for-one net metering? Yeah. So can you kind of start there? For sales teams that are out there, I'm sure they're all wondering the same thing. Okay, I think I've got my idea, or I've got my head around how a battery works. How does it work in terms of the financials? How do I know how much I'm going to be saving the homeowner?
So that's been a question we've gotten a lot, and so we have a design tool called Designer, which is easy to remember, and we've actually gone into that tool and made something specific for NEM so that you can do that sizing accurately with our system. So it now has those rates built in, so that a sales rep, all they really need to do is go into that proposal tool, or the proposal tool and the design tool, and typically you can get the homeowner's green button data. And based on their actual usage of that home, you can input that into our tool, and then it will give you the number of how many batteries do you need, what does the system size need to look like, and then what will the savings look like, assuming those new NEM rates. So it does a lot of that work for you, which has been a challenge up to this point. So it's a new thing we've come out with for installers and sales professionals in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, again, I'm trying to understand for myself here as well, but like these rates, when you set the rates in there, is it pretty much you set it and forget it, or do these rates dynamically update somehow?
So there's sort of two sides of it. So there's the design side, and then there's the actual physical, or I guess the software in the actual system that monitors it. So on the design side, the rates there right now are hourly and daily and monthly. So I think it's fixed for a period of time, but it changes by the hour and stuff. So it's tough to model that in a sort of standard way without having that in the back end. So we've built that in for designers so they can look at that. And then for the actual product itself, we've built in software that independent, the homeowner doesn't have to do anything, the installer doesn't have to do anything. It will actually monitor those rates and either self-consume for the homeowner, so they use their own power when it makes sense to do that, or there's a few hours, for example in September, when the utility is actually paying a lot of money to homeowners for their energy. And so our software in the system knows those times and will discharge your battery back to the grid and get the homeowner those savings without them having to do anything. So it monitors that for them. And so that's the software in the equipment, and then there's also the software in the design side.
Okay.
So there's sort of two sides.
So if I understand this correctly, then you've got the design software, which is going to help you with the initial sizing, like matching the battery to the homeowner's consumption.
Yeah.
And then once the system's online, it will like auto reconfigure itself based on time of day, consumption, and what the rates from the utilities are, what the buyback offers
Correct.
are.
Yeah, it's a usage profile that the installer will set for that system, but then the inverter works with the battery to do exactly that. It monitors those rates. It'll actually monitor the weather as well. Like it's very smart, and will do a lot of that work for the homeowner to make sure the homeowner's getting as much bang for their buck as possible.
And is this like an add-on option, or this is just part of the SolarEdge battery platform now?
That's just part of the platform. So the firmware is coming. It isn't quite out yet. They've designed it. We're getting ready to launch it. The design software is good to go. You can do that today. And then the firmware is very close to being online. And so once it's online, it's just a usage profile that you set for the system, and it does everything for you. No extra charge for it.
Very cool, very cool. So Connor, I've got to kind of put you on the spot here a little bit, because I know that I'm going to get the question here.
Yeah.
A lot of folks out there, they have electric vehicles, or they're very close to purchasing an electric vehicle, and they want to know how that's going to fit in with the mix. If I have solar, if I have home batteries, now I have an electric vehicle that I want to be able to take advantage of. How does all that work?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we're waiting on right now is the actual car manufacturers. So there's some compatibility that has to exist with the car in order to ensure that our system will work with all vehicles in that architecture. And so we're working on that side. But if you think about how a DC coupled architecture works, it keeps power DC as long as it has to be. It doesn't convert power unnecessarily, and so our system is naturally ready to more efficiently do that bidirectional charging and discharging. So if it's DC coming out of the car into your home and it just converts once, then you're going to get more energy from your vehicle when you go to use it at night. And then same thing the other way. So when you go to charge your car, if it's DC all the way to your car, you get all of the energy that you need, and there isn't necessarily unnecessary power conversion. So, but yeah, the big thing is we're waiting on cars to become compatible, basically, and we're doing a lot of work on that front to help make sure that happens.
Yeah, I know. One of the things I hear is that we're waiting for standards to emerge on what these what the vehicle power export looks like. In fact, I'm still even curious. When you open up an electric vehicle battery port, is it presenting DC voltage or is it presenting AC voltage?
Yeah.
And do you know, or are we still working that out?
Right now, I believe it's AC, because the chargers themselves are usually putting AC in the car, and they have an inverter within them that converts it back and forth. And so that's a lot of I think all chargers right now are doing AC voltage. Okay. Maybe level 3 does DC. So level 3, I suppose, does DC, but otherwise your standard level 2 home EV chargers usually doing AC.
AC, okay, yeah. Well, this is something that we're going to be following as well. I know there's tons of interest out there in the marketplace. Yeah. How is all this going to work together? And that's the other cool thing, for me, to kind of see it all tying together. Yeah. Solar used to be kind of its own thing. In fact, when I got started in solar, we were doing off-grid systems. And so if you were doing it on your home, it was like a completely separate system. You would flip a switch and now you're on solar. You would flip a switch and now you're back on the grid.
Yeah.
And now to see the grid, the solar, the battery, the EV, all of it kind of working together, it's really, really neat to see that. So I guess, is there anything else that the audience should know about kind of what's coming down the road or what's coming down the horizon at SolarEdge? I think that's probably everything that I'm at liberty to say. There's always exciting things coming from SolarEdge, so it's always good to keep an eye on us. But those are the big things. We're working in California to make sure everybody's getting the solar they need. Cool.
and the rest of the country.
Cool. Well, thanks for sitting down with us on the podcast. Really nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, man.
Again here, Connor Morrison,
yeah,
the optimizer from SolarEdge. And of course, we'll be keeping up with you and everything you guys are doing. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.